Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today. And I understand it's a weekend, but you all took your time out and being a part of this conversation. Today, we are going to do a career talk on the profession of law. And we have a very renowned and established lawyer with us. I'm going to introduce to him in just a moment. Before we start the question answer session on this profession, I would just like to share a brief history of the law, which basically gives us that it's a fundamental rules of behavior when if we are living together, there must be a way to resolve the inevitable disputes. Lawyers come into the picture then. They perform an important role in helping the people navigate the complex pathways of laws that cover everything right from the child birth to their demise. Sadly, but yes, they are on the front fighting for the new rules to be made and the old ones to be modified as our civilization evolved with time. It's also quite obvious that whenever we talk about law or lawyer, we always imagine a courtroom, a debate going on, a presentation of different views, but law has much more attached to it. Today, I'm grateful to have Mr. Devanand Mahadeva, a well-respected lawyer in UAE, on a career talk to help us understand the lawyer's profession a bit better and shine the light on how to be one of them. Mr. Devanand is a fourth-generation lawyer and heads the inheritance and personal law practice of the Bestwins Law Corporation in the UAE. He has over 27 years of experience in the field of inheritance law of various countries, regions, and religions. Thank you, Mr. Devanand, for taking out time and being a part of a career talk and helping our students and parents in knowing more about this profession.
Thank you for inviting me to do this, actually.
Pleasure is all ours. So, Mr. Devanand, I would like to ask you, how did your journey of law start? Was it a conscious choice or because you come from a family of lawyers, or it was your interest area?
I think it was a straightforward inspiration. I've seen my father and grandfather practicing as lawyers as a young boy. So that was the inspiration. All the glamour of being a lawyer from childhood has inspired, and that is what led me to take up law as a career.
That's nice. So I would like to ask you, is there any particular skill set which is required to be a lawyer?
Interesting question, because I think the most important thing to be a lawyer is the right attitude and the fire to be a professional, because it's a profession which you choose. It's not like doing any other degree and going and working for somebody. It is a profession you choose, and you have to be serious about that particular profession. So I think that is the basic attitude and interest is what is required to be a right lawyer. Other than that, I would say the most important thing is you need to read a lot. You need to be a lot knowledgeable than anybody else around you. So you have to read a lot, and that is part of being a lawyer.
Yeah. So, Mr. Devanand, can you tell me what are the different specializations which are possible in law? Because generally, when we speak about, or a common man understanding is always about criminal lawyers, civil lawyer. Are there any more aspects which are they can explore?
Yes, it is, again, if you look at it generations back, I mean, my great-grandfather or grandfather would have seen only as a multifaceted lawyers.
Yeah.
As we had doctors those days, you went to the doctor for anything and everything. You went to the same doctor. Same thing, the lawyer was. He was multi-specialized, and they did a lot of things, all and sundry, of course. They did as a practice. But as the days pass by, the laws of various countries have evolved, and they have become very complicated. as they have become complicated, same thing like a medical profession. Now, every part of your body has a separate specialist. Whether it's an external organ or internal organ has a separate specialist. So like that, the law also has evolved and it has become a specialist practice. So we have various types of law which we talk about, different specialities. I think I have a slide also that can be projected.
Yeah.
The different laws, which are different specializations, like, as you rightly said, criminal law, civil law, which is generally known to everybody.
Yes.
We have something called tax law, because tax has become a very complicated system. As we say, tax avoidance is legal, tax evasion is illegal. So to do things legally, there are tax lawyers. And then you have corporate law, where the corporate transactions are taken care of. Of course, in the modern terms, we have the cyber law, where you have, people want to do things online, and there are law regulating to what can be done online and what cannot be done online, and what is legality. And then international law, which deals with, countries, between organizations in different countries. And of course, the most important law which is practiced in the UAE is the labor law, where we have a predominant expatriate population, and they all work on contracts with various organizations. So labor law becomes a very, very important aspect of legal practice these days. And then, of course, real estate law, when there are transactions between people with regard to real estate. And patent law, intellectual property law, which are related to each other, as well as competition law, where you have to safeguard your trademark, you have to safeguard your intellectual property, where you have got a finding or of course, latest days we talk about vaccinations a lot. So these sort of things has to be registered and taken care under the law. And then, of course, we have what we call M&A practice. I mean, like mergers and acquisitions, where companies buy each other. So some people specialize on that. I mean, they specialize on buying and selling companies or taking over companies. And then the technology law in the current days, of course, a lot of technology involvement and a lot of confusions and a lot of disputes with regard to that. And the most modern thing is the e-commerce law. Going further from the cyber law, of course, that's a generic thing, where e-commerce law has become big time, because the commerce has become multinational, international, and it has become into the cyberspace. So that has become the latest trend of law, what we call the e-commerce law. So there are a lot of different specializations which people can do.
It's great to know that there are so many specializations available, which makes me ask you this, that do you recommend people practicing multiple specialization, or they should create a niche into a particular area and follow that?
It's like this, evolved in their life. I specialize in a particular law which I have not discussed at all in this slide. See, it's what we call inheritance and personal law, which deals with people or their issues. So these are specializations which you evolve as a person. When you go, as far as law school is concerned, everybody goes to a law school and studies everything. They have to study anything and everything in a law school. There is no specialization in a law school. Okay, in the final year, you may take up some optional subjects, thinking that you will specialize in that later in your life. But the specialization comes from your practice, what you choose, because you normally jump into a practice and then you do anything and everything. And then you think, okay, this is one area which I'm good at, or I enjoy it. So let me take up this particular law of practice. Like, if you look at it, my father was a specialist in sort of a marine law. He dealt with a lot with law of admiralty, where it's all about shipping and the dealing of ships. I'm a person who is specialized in inheritance and personal law. So I deal with people and their issues. I mean, like their inheritance and their business succession, family business succession.
Okay.
Now, My son is also a lawyer, the 5th generation lawyer. Now he has got into a specialization of arbitration, where out of court settlements have become a big thing now, arbitration. So that is his interest. And as he got into the profession, he has got specialized in that area. So each person takes up what interests them. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
true. So once they are into the system, they realize what they are liking it and what they can be good at. They can pick up a specialization at that point of time.
Yes.
So before we move on to the next question, I would like to request people who have joined here that if you have any question, please put it into the chat box and I will ask on your behalf. So going on next, Mr. Devanand, I would like to ask you that it may sound silly in the field of, acting as a lawyer, or there are other ways possible. If a person completes a graduation and then realize that they want to have a career in this field, is there any other way out, or having a law degree is important?
It's very interesting question. I mean, like, a law degree is very important to be a lawyer. You cannot be a lawyer without a law degree. But what you have to understand is most of the jurisdictions in the world, law degree is a postgraduate degree. It's not a master's, but it's a postgraduate degree. Normally, they do a basic degree, and after that, they do a law degree.
Okay.
So that is how a law degree works in an overall. So a law degree is a must to be in different jurisdictions, they call it different names. They're called attorneys, they're called advocates, they're called barristers, solicitors. It's all different examination, different routes. But the basic thing is everybody has to have a law degree. But getting the law degree can be a different process in different countries, different jurisdictions.
We will share the slides for the different, probably we can discuss how it is different in different jurisdictions.
Definitely. I think I have prepared some slides of 5 different jurisdictions where most of the students are interested in, where they follow more of common law, and as well as these are jurisdictions where generally English-speaking jurisdictions, which a lot of the students from the UAE are interested in going into. I think if we can go to the previous slide, yeah.
All right.
Yes. So everybody takes interest in United Kingdom because that is the motherland of the common law. So so here in UK, you can either become a solicitor or a barrister. The audience can read it as well, this particular slide. So what happens here is that, interestingly, in UK, the LLB degree which they give is not a postgraduate degree. It's a graduate degree. So you can finish your A-levels and you can go into an LLB degree, or you can do any other degree, unrelated bachelor's degree, any BA or BSc or whatever it is. You can do, and you can do a 1-year graduate diploma in law, and you will complete your LLB as such. I mean, equivalent to LLB.
I read somewhere there is if you can go and do it after A-levels, any graduation, and then there is a law conversion course kind of a thing.
Yeah, that is what the graduate diploma in law. So that takes another year. So that's 4 years it is. Now, what you have to understand is in the UK, now to be a solicitor again, you have to do a solicitor's qualifying examination. Of course, they're making some changes this year to those examinations, and you have to do a 2-year training, a qualifying legal work. Then only you will become a full-fledged solicitor. So what the students should understand is that when you go there, just with a degree, you don't become a lawyer. You have to do your 2-year training, and then you become a lawyer, a solicitor. And also, if you want to become a barrister, just to give you the difference between a solicitor and a barrister, a solicitor is a person who does all the drafting and documentation and everything. A barrister is a person who is allowed to appear in a court of law. Okay. So the barrister doesn't take direct clients. He's given the brief from a solicitor. It's a very interesting system. So to become a barrister, you have to go through another bar professional training, and you have to be invited to the bar. to become a independent barrister. So it's a very, very long process in the UK. But what happens is that normally students get retracted saying that, okay, it's a 3-year LLB degree compared to rest of the world. So let me go and do it and become a lawyer. No, you don't become a lawyer just after a 3-year degree in the UK. Okay, that they have to understand. And going further, the next, this thing is Australia. And when you look at Australia as an option to go and study, of course, it's again an undergraduate degree, a 4-year LLB, or a 3-year JD, a postgraduate, which after your normal degree or normal 3-year degree, you can do a 3-year postgraduate. So it's either 4 years or 6 years. And of course, we have mentioned about the tuition fees and all those things, but that I think the audience can.
This is a very valuable information. I'll be sharing with the people on the email as well.
So what happens here is that they have to go through practical legal training. Whether it's a full-time or part-time training, they have to go through the training while they are in college and university, something like an articleship. And then they have to apply for to be the role of lawyers. So to get a practicing certificate, you have to have an experience of 18 to 24 months of supervised work. So again, in Australia, you don't directly become a lawyer just when you finish a LLB degree. It doesn't work that way. You have to get your practice certificate. You have to do something like an articleship, and then only you get your full-fledged license to be a lawyer. Now,
is there any bar council exams also like we have in India?
Yes, they do have. So that is what happens when you do the training, and you have to finish your practical training along with that. And going further to all of them have bar council exams. I mean, in UK they call it the solicitors and barristers. And when you go to US, it's again a very interesting situation. You have to do your 4-year degree, and again, law is a postgraduate degree there. It's not an undergraduate degree. After the undergraduate degree of 4 years, then you have to do your JD, Juris Doctor, which is 3 years. So totally, if you look at it in the US, it takes about 7 years to become a lawyer.
Amazing.
Yes.
More than being a doctor.
Yeah, more than being a doctor. It's not easy as such. And of course, costings are mentioned here. So once you want to, practice, after that, as you asked earlier, you have to do the bar exam. So what happens is that, of course, US is, 50 countries put together as one country. So what happens is that everybody have their own bar exams. Every state you want to practice, you have to write a different bar exam. But some states have a unified bar exam, so they can, club it together. So if you do that exam, you can practice in so-and-so states. And of course, to join JD, you have to have the LSAT exam. Without an LSAT, you cannot join JD. They don't look at your, they do look at your degree results and look at your A-level results and all those things to give you an offer in a better university. That is for your track record. But your LSAT exam is the predominant requirement. So again, the salary levels are mentioned as far as US is concerned. And from there, we can go to Canada. Very similar system as in US. Again, after a 4-year degree, they have to do the JD, Juris Doctor, of 3-year course. And only thing is, in Canada, the education cost may be a little lesser than the US when you're doing the JD. But again, here also you have to do the LSAT exams. Students have to do their LSAT exams. And then after the JD also, Canada, the other situation is that you have to do a articleship. You have to do a training. You have to do a bar exam. And then you become a lawyer as such. So what you will understand is there is no shortcut to be a lawyer fast. It's all a long process. You have to go through this whole process in all the jurisdictions. And you have to understand law is very jurisdictional. When you qualify in one country, it doesn't mean that you will be eligible to practice in another country.
Okay.
Same thing like medicine. Medicine also has such similar situations.
Yeah, they need to clear exams before practicing.
Yes, and now coming to coming to India, where most of the population come from in this part of the world.
Yeah.
When you look at India as a destination, of course, even personally, I'm a lawyer qualified from India. So what happens here is that here earlier there was a system of doing a 3-year degree and then any degree, whether you do BSc, BA, BCom, whatever it is, or BBA, whatever it is, and then you do a 3-year LLB degree. But that has been gradually scrapped. Of course, there are still some universities who offer those courses, but they have gradually scrapped it. That is, as you earlier asked, some. So this is an option for them, 3-year law degree. But now what is encouraged in bigger law universities, or what they call national law schools, which are the national law schools in India, something equivalent to IIT in engineering and IIM in management. So they're sort of based on exams, entrance exams, and these national law schools offer, or the bigger law schools or the more reputed law schools offer 5-year LLB degrees. I mean, that is, they give a double degree. I mean, even personally, I have done a 5-year law degree. It's BA LLB, or now they have BSc LLB, they have BCom LLB, BBA LLB. Different colleges, universities have different formats of it for different purposes. So they have a sort of a double degree coming out after 5 years, but it's minimum 5 years which they have to do more.
Okay.
And what happens? This is all based on entrance exam, because in India everything is based on entrance exams. Whether you want to go to medical school or engineering college or law school. So the most important exams are IELTS, CLAT or LSAT India. These are different exams. Of course, CLAT is meant mainly for all the national law schools, which are the top run law schools in India. And highly competitive, of course, India is. So what happens is that once they finish the degree, they are automatically allowed to enroll in their state bar council. Their own, they choose their bar council based on their residence or where they studied, and they are allowed to enroll in their state bar council, whichever state they are from. And then within 2 years of enrollment, they have to write the All India Bar exam. It's a mandatory requirement that they have to write the All India Bar exam within 2 years. Of course, in our days, I qualified 29 years back, and in our days, we didn't have this bar exam. And even today, we are not required to do that exam, because we are we have enjoyed so many years of practice, and now asking us to go and do a bar exam doesn't make any sense. But all the young graduates now have to have their bar exam cleared. So these are the different countries which I could take as a ballpark to explain to our audience here that which are the different options they can take. But there is no way that you can do a shortcut to do a law degree.
Right.
There may be universities or organizations promising you law degrees in 3 years, 4 years, and things like that. But just that law degree will not take you places in the legal profession. That they have to understand. There are regulations with regard to enrollments, and there are regulations. Now, coming to UAE, how a person can practice as a legal consultant here. Here you have to understand, we have 2 different types of lawyers, of course. Something similar to solicitors, we have legal consultants here. And the other ones are called advocates. And the advocates are restricted to Emirati citizens. Only Emirati nationals can be advocates. Only they can appear in a court of law in front of a judge. Okay. No expatriate, wherever they come from, is not. No expatriate is allowed to appear in front of a judge. Now, what the expatriates as lawyers, or what all we do here as lawyers, is that we are all considered legal consultants. And we should be qualified in our respective jurisdictions, and we should be eligible to practice in our respective jurisdictions. Say, for example, if a young lawyer comes from India, he should be a person who's qualified the 5-year LLB or a 3-year degree, 3-year LLB degree, and he must have been enrolled in one of the bars in India, and he should be, he should have finished his bar exam. I mean, if it is a young lawyer. At the same time, if a person is coming from the UK, just a LLB degree of 3 years doesn't make you eligible to practice law. I mean, as a legal consultant, you have to finish your training contract. You have to finish your solicitor's exams or barrister's exams, and you should qualify then only you will be allowed to be a legal consultant, or you will be approved as a legal consultant.
Okay. Okay. We have a question here from a student, Azza, and she wants to know, will there be a lot of maths in law school? I think, the
maths
question
in law school, yes.
Yeah.
Interesting question. In fact, the only place, only examination paper, as far as I was concerned, when I studied law, the only examination paper we did some calculation or took a calculator with us is the paper which we deal with Sharia.
Okay.
Because we get case studies in Sharia about how when a person passes away, how the property is divided, because it's based on a ratio. So because of that, we carry a calculator to do that exam. Other than that, you don't do any mathematics or calculations in.
So basic understanding of maths will help. Need not
basic
worry.
understanding, yeah. If you can put 2 and 2 together, yes, you're fine.
Which makes me ask you, Mr. Devanand, that during the students who are, in grade 10, 11, and 12, are there any subjects recommendation which they should pick up so that it becomes much easy for them in the law, or it can be helping them, like subjects like history or social studies?
Definitely. If they have done humanities, what we call as humanities subjects, it helps them.
Okay.
So because like history, sociology, psychology, political science, even law. I mean, if you look at A-level subjects, you have law as a subject in British curriculum IB and all. So what happens is that it's good to take those subjects and study, because you will have more relevance when you study further in the law school. It's more relevant subjects than doing physics, chemistry, biology, or maths and going into a law school. It doesn't make any sense.
So if you realize at the right time that you want to pick up law, then you can make your subject choices accordingly, and you can work towards having a career in this field.
Yes, that is what it is. And of course, earlier days when we studied, when we took humanities as subject or commerce as subject, there was a lot of stigma against it. Even the parents didn't allow, or even the teachers looked at it, why are you doing these subjects? But now, of course, there is a lot of approval and a lot of understanding that these subjects are very important. So if you do those subjects, I think it's an ideal.
I think parents are now more conscious. They are letting their children understand what is their passion, and they let them select a profession of their choice.
Definitely.
And it's a more skill-oriented market now rather than degrees technically selling off.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. It makes me, I want to ask you this, that you have amazing 27 years of experience. Is there any case which, you felt that it went wrong, and, any situation which you didn't think of and then it turned up to you, and how did you handle it?
It does happen on and off. What you have to understand is, if there are, of course, I'm not into much of a litigation in my career, but litigation practice is a different practice, and it's, And what happens is that when you look at legal profession as such, there are two sides to a coin. Isn't it? So there are two sides to a whole issue, and ultimately you have to understand it goes through the legal system, and
Mm-hmm.
you call somebody a judge, and he's also a human being. He or she is a human being.
Yeah.
So they also base the judgment on what they feel right over
Mm-hmm.
these things based on the legal system or the laws available.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes interesting this way or that way it goes in. And sometimes you know that you don't have a concrete case or a
Mm-hmm.
powerful case on your side.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sort of a situation, in the current scenario, if you look at the world today, in the
Mm-hmm.
current scenario, we normally settle off. We
Okay.
try to go and negotiate, and we try to settle things between the parties so that there is no much time and money spent on
Mm-hmm.
legal wrangles.
Mm-hmm.
So that is
Okay.
what happens, so it's not the win or lose, but it's trying to sort it out and making it a win-win.
Right.
That is what matters.
Yeah. So we have another question which says, if they know the client they are representing is on the wrong side of the argument.
Oh, good. Nice below the belt question. See,
Secrets
when
needs
you,
to be out.
yes. See, it is like this. It's a profession. So when
Mm-hmm.
you take up a profession, that is what my senior, whom I practiced for the first time 29 years back,
Mm-hmm.
taught me, is that our job is to take care of our clients. And you leave it to the judge for him to decide whether we are right or the other side is right. We do
That's a
our
good
best
approach.
to present our client's case,
Mm-hmm.
and it is for the judge to decide whether he wants to decide in our favor or in the other favor. So we do
Mm-hmm.
our best. That is our profession. Now, coming to that, there is always um, um, a misconception attached to lawyers, is that lawyers are liars. We never lie, because if you lie, you will never uh, stay afloat, because lies have to be followed by so many other lies. It becomes very tricky.
I
You will
think they
forget what
provide a
lie you
different
told at the first.
interpretation of the same thing.
Yes. What we do is we only tell the truth,
Mm-hmm.
but truth which is favorable to our client.
Mm-hmm.
We don't tell all the truth, because I don't want to tell the truth which is favorable to the opposite party.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell the truth which is ideal for my client and
Mm-hmm.
present my case.
Mm-hmm.
It is that other lawyer's job is to provide the truth from that side.
True.
So
That
that
is.
is what we do. We don't tell lies here,
Mm-hmm.
like you see in those movies and all these fabricated things. It's not that, that's all dramatized. It doesn't work. Legal profession doesn't work that way. We tell the truth, but we don't tell all the truth. We tell the truth which is favorable to our client.
Right.
So you keep your ethics straight. That's how we
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. True. So there is another question that if a student who is already pursuing LLB, what should be the next steps? Because the competition is too high. It's again in this field, survival of the fittest is there. And there are so many advocates which are coming up. So what would be your suggestion to the students who are already pursuing law? What should they do next once they are out after completing the degree?
I'll share a wisdom given by my law college principal.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when we studied law, we didn't have all these fancy national law schools and private institutions. We had only government law colleges. And I went to one of those government law college where we had a principal who had a doctorate in law.
Mm-hmm.
So when he shared a wisdom, I'll share the same wisdom to you guys here, is that he tells us, guys, if you want to be a principal like me, a qualified person like me, you study very hard, you get very high marks in your law degree, and go
Mm-hmm.
ahead, do your LLM, do your MPhil, PhD, whatnot, and then become a principal. Or if you want to become a professor, also it's the same thing. You need to do your
Mm-hmm.
post graduation, etc. And if you want to go into corporate world, join a bank or something like that, then you finish your LLB and you do those bank exams, and or maybe an LLM to specialize in banking, whatever it is, and then you get into those lines. But you want to be a successful lawyer. If you just scrape through your law degree is enough. Only thing is you have to be street smart. That is what the advice which my principal gave me, who had a PhD in evidence, law of evidence. And so he gave this wisdom, and I think that is an absolute truth, because after 29 years, no client of mine, I have thousands of clients in this United Arab Emirates, and no client of mine has ever come and asked me, sir, have you got first class or second class or third class in your law degree? He has come to us because we solve their issues. Now, talking about that, you have to look at the future. What is coming for the lawyers in the future? People who are already taken the profession, who are doing their law degrees, what is there for the future? It's going to be totally different. You are not going to be a lawyer who is going to sit and draft documents, draft contracts, because that is all going to be taken over by artificial intelligence.
Yes.
That all will get automized. That all will get automized. It'll all be artificial intelligence, and you are not needed to look through contracts and documentation. That particular profession is going to become, that part of law is going to become obsolete.
So that means globalization.
Don't look at a job in a law firm to draft contracts, make contracts. It is like bookkeeping. I, as a 11th, 12th grader, I did subjects like accounting and bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is obsolete now. You have Tally, QuickBooks, whatever. So many softwares to take care of it.
Yeah.
You don't need accountants for that purpose. Same thing, lawyers are not going to be needed to look into documentation, but lawyers are still needed, one of the oldest professions in the world. Lawyers are still needed to advise clients and to analyze the situation, or what we call making a strategy.
Yeah.
Making a strategy is very important. It's not just knowing the laws. It's not just reading documentation and checking documentation, but anybody can read laws now. It is how to interpret it and how to do a strategy.
Right.
We don't go to a doctor just because he's giving good medicines. We don't go to a doctor because he does surgeries well. We go to a doctor because he does the diagnosis.
Diagnosis is good. Yeah.
He can diagnose you. But doctors are also having a lot of equipments these days to diagnose. All the scanners and equipments and, all the scopies which they have, they take care of all those things. So same thing is going to happen in the legal profession. There is going to be artificial intelligence to do things, but you will still survive as a lawyer if you prepare yourself for it and become a good strategist.
So that means globalization and digitalization will have an impact on the field of law and lawyer as well.
It's already happening.
It's already
Even my son is involved in a project of training artificial intelligence to read contracts.
Okay.
So, that is the future.
Yeah.
So we have to get ready. We all have reached a stage where we are sort of gray enough, old enough, to get on with what we did and, retire from the profession. But youngsters who are getting into it have to be ready for it.
Ready for it. Yeah. I can see few questions popping up. I'll just quickly take them. Simon is asking, are there any private schools in India which have 5-year degree? I think
private law schools.
Yeah.
There are quite a few. There are quite a few large organizations. We have very interesting 5-star law schools in India. Very, very interesting looking places where a lot of foreign dignitaries come to teach. There are a lot of judges who come to teach. There are a lot of foreign professors come to teach. There are very, very fancy law schools in India now. where you have, of course, I should not be naming all of them because it's not ethically right to promote some sort of a law school. But if you look through, of course, the younger generation has the Uncle Google and grandfather Wikipedia. You can always get through and find out
one.
which are the
I'm gonna copy
where
that.
they can find it. Pardon?
I'm gonna copy that, Uncle Google and grandfather Wikipedia.
Yes. They have a way to find which are those interesting law schools, private law schools. Of course, they also have the entrance examination, of course. But you will find is compared to these national law schools, which are run by or sponsored by the government, the fees level will be different. I mean, you will pay far more fees in these private organizations because, of course, that is how it is. Private education costs more money.
All right. So I have another question. It's by Sharanya. She says, I am a law student in India and want to know what kind of internships should I do and how to apply for them.
Yes, internships are very important. When we studied law, we knew internship only the final year because it was mandatory to finish law, to do some internship with a senior lawyer. So we did it because we had to do it. But when you look at current day scenario, all the students in various law schools do internships in between their holidays. I mean, semester breaks. When they have semester breaks, we also get a lot of these students coming to our offices, both in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, doing internship. Of course, we pick and choose the smart ones because for the basic reason, we normally recruit from our interns. When we have interns, we interview them and take the interns. And if the interns are smart enough, we, at the end of their law degree, we offer them a position in the organization.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, so for us, internship is, scouting for talent. For a lot of law firms, it's like that. So it's always good to apply to various law firms and try to get into internships. So that you have to do it in advance because law firms normally plan their internship 6 months to 1 year in advance. So especially this particular student, I think she's from India. So in India also the law firms, the big law firms, I mean, do their internship placements about at least 6 months to 1 year ahead. So you have to apply in advance, and in between your semester holidays, don't chill out at home, go to one of these law firms and learn how the legal profession is.
Yes. And it is very important to go and ask for, don't wait for the opportunity to knock at your door. You should have the attitude, move around, go and ask for work. You never know what clicks for you.
Yes. Even we prefer interns who come and ask for work. Yes. Like even when they come in for internship, instead of we giving them work, if they say, so what can I do? And can I get involved in this particular matter? And we get them involved in all of our arbitration cases, into our DIFC cases and all those things. We get them involved
in. Right. That's amazing piece of information. We have another question from Amar. He says, Devanand sir, what country would you consider best to go for a law degree?
I think I would be biased. And of course, I know the person who is asking the question as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, what happens is that we don't want to be biased in this sort of a scenario where we have different nationalities, different this thing. But I would always suggest students to go to their native countries to do law. Whichever country they come from, they have to go to their native country to do law because it's easier to become a lawyer in their native country. Because give preference to that, because for the basic reason is that a lot of these countries don't allow foreigners to enroll in their
country.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of Indian students here. If you look at India, India doesn't allow foreigners to enroll as a lawyer in their country. So because they don't do that, they don't allow Indians to enroll as lawyers in very many countries unless they become, in US green card holders and they do the bar exam and go through the system. So because of that, it is ideal for to go to your native country and do your degree. Of course, you want to do further education into it, then of course you can go to different jurisdictions, because there are a lot of young lawyers these days. Unlike our days, youngsters, they go to multiple jurisdictions to do law. So they up their bottom line like that, because when they become qualified in multiple jurisdictions, of course, it takes more years of study. But when they become qualified in multiple jurisdictions, what happens is that they get into a better demand because the law has become international.
Right.
So if a student is qualified both as a lawyer, as a JD in US and a solicitor in UK, or as an advocate in India, a JD in US, they are in better demand in the world.
Right.
They're more sought after.
Okay, that's great. Then there is another question which says, how will be able to practice in multiple countries? It's by Adish Shetty.
I think I just answered that question now.
Yeah.
Because in different countries require different requirements, and you have to qualify in those countries to practice in those countries.
I have also one question from Azza. She says, what if my native country is not an option?
Look at another country.
Which country it is.
Look at another country which we have to take it individualistic there. If you don't want to go to your native country, you can choose another country where you will fully qualify as a lawyer and you will be allowed to practice elsewhere.
Okay.
That is very important. Like you select, for example, if you're going to US to do law. So what happens? You have to do your 4-year degree. You will do your 3-year JD after that. You will do your bar exam. You will become eligible to practice in those states. Then you are qualified to practice in that country. So if your native country is not an option, yes, you can always go. I said the first preference should be your native country. But if you cannot, if you come from a country where they teach law only in your native language and you don't want to keep to that native language or various reasons, then of course go to a different jurisdiction. Nothing wrong in it.
Yeah. Okay. We have an interesting question now. It says, is it tougher for a woman to practice law? Is there any kind of a gender bias also in this industry?
Very, very good question.
Yes.
There is no gender bias as such in the legal profession. In fact, interestingly, I spoke about this a week back in one of the schools in Dubai. That was the topic. And there is no gender bias as such, but there are certain challenges. If you ask me, like when we were in the government law college, the smartest students in our college were girls. Because only the smart girls had the guts to get into a law school at that time. I'm talking about 30 odd years back, where only the smart girls had a chance or the guts to get into a law school because of the social situation. So they were very smart and they are all doing well as lawyers. But
I think you need to be tough and strong, and then it's all easy. And it is applicable to all the fields.
Then it's all easy. But
that's not about law. It's all
the challenge for women is that their responsibilities when they start a family is more. Men cannot give birth to children. Only women can do it. So they need to take a maternity leave. They have to take their break from profession. So what happens? They get left behind when the guys can continue when men can continue with the profession without a break, where women have to take these breaks or they have to take more family responsibilities.
But
so
I
that
think
is
times
what
are
becomes a
changing
challenge.
now. Yeah.
Pardon?
I'm saying times are changing now. I agree that still the woman is
times are changing now, but still that challenge is there.
That challenge is there, yes.
Yeah, I use one of the, because example, again, sorry for using India as an example. The first lady justice of the Supreme Court of India, first lady Supreme Court judge, she's still alive. She's 94 years old and she's Fatima Bibi. And she became a first lady Supreme Court judge. But if you look at her background, she's unmarried. She's 94 now and she's never married.
Yeah.
She dedicated her life to, she started from the lower end of the judiciary and climbed up to the Supreme Court. So that is the thing, she had to sacrifice her personal life to become somebody big in the profession.
Yeah.
Or to reach.
But I think, now the families are more supportive. They understand,
Yes.
They take equal responsibilities. That kind of attitude can help in women being more successful. And that is not only applicable to law, it is applicable to all the field where woman is. You need that equal sharing of responsibilities.
Yes. So that is what you see more judges, even in the US or in the UK or even in India. You have more lady judges, high-flying lady lawyers, head of law firms. Again, I can take a lot of names here, but then not to be biased.
Yeah.
You find a lot of. I would like to reiterate, even in our days, the girls were far smarter than the boys in the law school.
I agree with you completely till now. All right. There is Amar again with a question for you. He says, is doing a combination of both law and chartered accountancy a good idea, or is it too much for a person to do?
I'll just share a personal experience of mine here. I did, my 11th and 12th, I did commerce. And after that, I went through my entrance exam and went for a 5-year law degree. And all my classmates were doing, my 11th and 12th classmates were doing BCom. Because they didn't have the inspiration to do law like I did through generations. But then they did BCom as such. And they all did ICWA at that time, Institute of Cost and Works Accountants. They all wrote the exam. So I also got inspired and started writing that exam. So the first foundation exam we wrote. 4 of us wrote and 2 of them failed. They were doing BCom. 2 of us survived. One of the BCom guy and myself, we survived that exam. So when the next exam came, it clashed with my semester exam.
Okay.
So, and then the 2 people, the combination left also because they lost the exam, so they left. So that sort of made a issue here, and then I just stopped doing ICWA. But I was very keen on doing accounting. But then it's a good idea if you can do it, if you can pull it through. Yes, it's a very good combination. There are a lot of chartered accountants, lawyers, chartered accountants. It's a very good combination as such. Sorry, and also there are company secretaries who are lawyers. Qualified company secretaries. They just make signatures in board meeting minutes of large companies and make money out of it. So it's an interesting profession.
So it's up to your individual capacity. If you can take that
load, if you can definitely pull it through both together, yes.
Because both require a lot of work associated with it and a lot of time.
Yes, a lot of study associated with it. But I had a lot of other social life and a lot of other things going, so I didn't have time for it. So, but if the young man finds it interesting, yes, he can.
Okay. So there is another question. Can you tell us about how people become judges?
Oh, yes. See, how people become judges, of course, earlier, what happens is that normally the lawyers were picked up. Smart lawyers were picked up and they became judges. But now the judiciary is based on examinations. Different places have it differently. Different countries have it differently. In some countries, judges are elected even. So what happens is that the judges become, they write examination and become part of judiciary. And when you look at the higher courts, the top end courts, what happens is that many a times practicing lawyers, high-flying lawyers are invited to become judges by the government or whatever structure they have in that particular country. They are invited to become judges. But normally people graduate from practice. what we call from the bar to the bench. What the lawyers sit is called the bar, and the bench is where the judge sits. So you move from the bar to the bench, most of the countries through examination. So it depends on where this particular student is coming from or a candidate is coming from. It's based on that.
Okay. So amazing. It's almost going to be an hour, and the conversation, I just loved it. It was so informative. I think we'll take up the last question. It says, it's from Adish Shetty again, that what are the different kind of lawyers? And I think Adish, he told right in the beginning, maybe you have joined in the middle. How do I pursue something related with a combination of finance and law? Again, I think I can answer on your behalf, but if you can take it up.
No, how do I do combination of finance and law is that, as
if you
I
want
had
to
answered
work on
earlier,
two streams,
you can do both of these things. And there are some law schools which provide undergraduate degrees, or combination degrees of finance and law, or commerce and law, basically. So they can do get into those degrees, and they can do both together. It all depends on an individual student's capacity, whether they can balance all that and do it. And you can combine, but you have to understand what you want to achieve out of it.
Right.
Whether you want to be a serious accountant, or you want to be a serious lawyer, or you want to be a combination of it, and what do you want to do by that combination? What are you going to achieve by that combination? Because ultimately, what is your aim? What matters, like what you want to achieve out of it.
I think probably he's planning for a backup plan, that if this doesn't work, the other one can sail it through. So, Mr. Devanand, I would take up the last question from my side. And that would be that if there is any myth which you want to, burst out about this profession to the people.
See, this profession is not what you see in those movies. This profession is not what you see in those suit serial in Netflix.
Yes.
It's different from that, and you have to work really, really hard. It involves a lot of hard work. When I started my practice, I used to start work at 5 o'clock in the morning. I have to be at my senior's office at 5 o'clock in the morning. And we work till about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the night. I don't work that way anymore, because I have reached a stage where, I've worked hard enough so that,
you have earned your position now.
Yes. So now I can get others to work for me, and I can sit tight. But it's a lot of hard work. This profession has a lot of gestation period. It takes a bit of a time to reach a place. In this profession, it takes time, what we call as gestation period. So you have to be ready for that. It doesn't come, because you learn from experience, you learn from jurisdictions, you learn from the street. So you want to learn from the street, it takes time. So just arming with a law degree doesn't take you places, but you have to work hard, and you should be ready to spend that sort of a time to work hard. That's very important. And of course, it is a continuous reading. Reading is the most important thing in this, and learning is the most important thing in this profession, because laws change by the day. And you have to learn. And if you don't learn, you get left behind. So if you're not enjoying reading, if you're not enjoying accumulating knowledge, this is not the right profession.
That's great advice, Mr. Devanand. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing 1 hour. I loved all the conversation we had and all the piece of information. You have gone in depth and shared the knowledge with us. I still have many questions left with me. Probably I have to come up with season 2 with you. And I would like to say to the people who have joined in the middle that I'll be uploading the recording. So if you have missed out on any portion, you can probably go and check there. And if you still have more questions, you can email it to us. I'll try to get answers from Mr. Devanand and then I'll send it to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, taking out time and being a part of this conversation. And special thanks again, Mr. Devanand, taking out time from your hectic schedule. I know what a weekend is and you know how important a Friday is in this part of the world. And I really appreciate your time for us.
Thank you so much for having me around and allowing me to share some knowledge with the younger generation so that they can make their
Pleasure is
career
all mine.
choices.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. I'll see you soon.